Hi everyone, Adam here. 18th of April. Today is a rest day, so kind of sore in the calves in a really weird way that really hurts. In a way that I did not know that I could be sore in the calves, but here we are. And aside from that, feeling pretty good. Bit of a headache today. Ended up napping for 5 hours in the middle of the day because I did not get a lot of sleep last night. Had an early shift at work this morning. Came back, took a big nap. Here I am. Aside from that, what I wanted to talk about today is bulking. And that is what I'm doing right now. And, here's my thing of OJ. The thing about bulking that most people don't realize is it's actually extremely difficult. It's difficult on the same sort of magnitude as actually losing weight, but in the opposite direction with entirely different problems. There's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I can't gain weight. I'm a hard gainer. I just can't gain weight. And it's absolutely true that certain people will find it easier or harder to gain weight than others. That's not in any way up for debate. The problem is that the kinds of people that tend to say that stuff to you are the kinds of people who are not actually bothering to try and eat the amount that they need to gain weight. I know, and it's the same story every time. The one that comes to my mind is this guy that used to go to the gym that I worked at, and he was an old army guy. He would do really long workouts, tons of cardio, tons of stuff all day, every day. And, he was in great shape, looked really lean, really fit, really cut. But he wasn't very big. He was maybe 160, 170 pounds. And he sort of would complain about that, and he would be like, oh, yeah, it's just, I'm just a hard gainer, it never works out. And I would talk to him about, maybe it's difficult, when you're deployed, maybe you don't have as much access to food. I didn't really know. I was just sort of starting a conversation with him, and he's like, oh no, we had plenty of protein bars, protein shakes, all this other stuff. I would, blah, 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 but I just wouldn't gain weight. And the problem is that, so your body, the reason why it's hard to gain or lose weight from any given point, we believe that there might be what we call like a body fat set point, or some sort of adaptive mechanism where basically once you've been at a weight for a certain amount of time, your body says, okay, we like this weight, we want to stay here. So if you were to gain, if you were to eat a ton of calories that were supposed to make you gain weight, then your body sort of cuts down, or it adds activity in the form of what we call NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's basically like fidgeting and moving around and stuff like that, shifting in your chair, etc. So the idea is that if you eat more calories and your body wants to preserve your weight, it will make you subconsciously fidget more and waste more energy doing stuff like that. Or, it might improve your metabolism a little bit. We're not sure. There's a lot of fuzzy things around here. Now, of course, we believe the same thing happens in the opposite direction when you try and lose weight, which is that your body says, oh, well, if you're losing weight, that must mean you don't have food. If you don't have food, that must mean that you're starving. We want you to maintain the weight that you have so you can survive, because this is very much a survival mechanism. So, you want to maintain the weight that you have, so basically the idea is, oh, we're going to reduce your metabolism, we're going to cut down on unimportant bodily processes, or we're going to reduce your NEAT, reduce your non-exercise activity, with the intention of saving more energy so that you don't lose weight. And so the thing is that how much, when you eat, hunger is largely determined by your brain. Hunger is determined by your brain knowing roughly how many calories you need to eat to maintain your current weight. It can be very off. Your brain can get very confused. There's lots of things that can mess with that. Highly rewarding, highly palatable, highly energy-dense foods like sugars, processed fats, things like that. These are all things that can sort of trick us psychologically by making us think that we've eaten less than we actually have. So, those things are bad if we're trying to lose weight, because typically we might overeat them a little bit by accident. But on the whole, your brain mostly knows the amount of calories that it needs, and it mostly adjusts your hunger levels to match that. So if you eat just enough to make you stop being hungry, or maybe a little bit less than that, then you're probably about, going to stay about the same weight. Now the problem is, what that means is that if you're trying to gain weight, you need to be going past the point that you are hungry. So that means that you need to eat a big meal or whatever. You're hungry, you ate a big meal, and then you're not hungry anymore. You stopped being hungry, you started being full, but now you need to keep eating more because you're trying to bulk, you're trying to get in more calories than that, you're trying to gain weight. That is the thing that most people do not realize. They do not realize that bulking literally means you are going to be eating more than you want to. You're going to be eating food that is not pleasurable to eat. It is not fun. You're not eating it to eat it because you feel hungry. You are eating it solely because you are bulking and you need to eat more. That is why you are eating it. So, when you are bulking, you need to have a constant source of food all day. You need to have something on hand at all times, and you need to be putting food in your mouth literally every time that you can remember to do that. Because otherwise, you're simply, you want to be putting food in your mouth as often as humanly possible. And when that happens, you gain weight because you are forcing your body to keep processing more and more food. And you're as long as you don't eat too much and get to the point where you're causing stomach aches and other issues, which are frequently an issue within the past week, for example. I have had that problem a bunch in the last week. I gave myself massive stomach aches several times, and protein shakes give me stomach aches unless I have Lactaid with them because I have a lactose intolerance. So sometimes I forget to have my Lactaid, and I drink a protein shake, and I'm messed up for like 6 hours after that. These are all things that can absolutely be a huge problem. I love liquid calories, by the way. Like, I knew there was a really great interview a while back where they interviewed a powerlifter and one of the super heavyweights, and they interviewed his wife, and she was talking about all the food prep she had to do for him, and she's like, we would go through like 3 gallons of Gatorade a day. And I remember at the time, having never bulked up in my life, I was like, that sounds gross. Who wants to drink that much Gatorade? And then, listen, I am literally going through, a gallon of orange juice or a 2-liter of soda every day. That is on top of stuffing my face with all the food that I can eat. There are people who drink oil. That's a thing, because oil is surprisingly calorie dense for how little of it there is. So people drink oil. The same reason that people eat a crap ton of peanut butter, because peanut butter is super calorie dense. I don't think you guys understand. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. We're not talking 2 big, mountainous tablespoons. We're talking 2 perfectly leveled off tablespoons. And in fact, you take a teaspoon and you get a big mountain of it. You've probably got more than 2 tablespoons right there, and that is 200 calories. It's 200 calories in one big old rounded scoop of peanut butter. Which is why eating peanut butter really messes with your stomach after a little bit. But yeah, there's a really good joke that I think I got from Brandon Morrison over at Lift Big, Eat Big, which is a really excellent blog, by the way. Definitely more on the body positive end, aimed more towards strongman competitors and strength sports. I can't remember if I got it from Brandon Morrison over at Lift Big Eat Big or if I got it somewhere else, but and I've changed it a little bit, I think, over the years. But the gist of it is this. The gist of it is that there is a coach, and this coach is at a seminar, and someone goes to the coach and says, listen, coach, I want to bulk, but I'm a hard gainer. I have a really hard time bulking. And the coach looks at him and says, I can tell that you're not bulking right. Do you know why that is? The person says, no. Why is that? He says, because you do not have a burrito in your hand at this very moment. That is the literal truth. Bulking is not just oh, I decided I would gain some pounds, so I ate a little bit more. Particularly when you get up heavier and heavier, bulking is, I decided to completely change my lifestyle around so that I can get in a crap ton more calories a day than I usually do. That is what bulking is. When I first started bulking, I managed to get from 170 to 200 pounds, and all I was doing was drinking this weight gainer. And this was before that I knew that I was lactose intolerant. So this weight gainer that I was drinking, it was, I think it was Optimum Nutrition, I can't remember the exact brand, but we're talking like the scoops, it's like a cup. It's like, you know, like the scoop is like the size of a cup. And so you put like 2 cups in, you know, in a blender. It takes up like a quarter of the blender. You fill the blender the rest of the way up with milk. You blend that whole thing up, and then you drink it. It's literally a whole blender full of you know, basically protein shake. And at the time, I was unemployed, and I was living in an apartment by myself. I didn't have a ton of friends around. So mostly what I was doing was I was training to get my personal trainer certification, and I was working out, and I was eating. And I would take this weight gainer, and I would get back from the gym, make this weight gainer, I would drink the whole thing in one sitting, and then because I was lactose intolerant, I didn't know it yet, I would just pass out for like 2 hours, and then I would wake up and be like, oh, I feel like crap, it's time to, you know, whatever, the rest of my day. But that's how I did that, and that was awful. And I got up from 170 to 200. I then stalled because I didn't really have the guts, or I didn't really have, you know, yet the mindset or the ability to actually eat enough to get myself up much past 200. And since then, I've mostly stayed kind of in that area between about 190 and 200. I'm trying to get up to 220 now, and I'm a lot smarter than I used to be when it comes to bulking, so I know what I'm doing a lot more. It's still tough. It's still hard. I'm still feeling crappy forcing this much food into my body sometimes. So yeah, like, if you've never bulked before, if you've never seriously gained a bunch of weight before, don't say that you're not a hard gainer, because you probably don't know. You probably don't know what you're doing, I'll be honest. And yeah, like, it's it's one of those things where it's very much a skill that you have to learn, and you know, like, there are pros that have been doing it for years, and they make it look easy. They go 20 pounds here, 30 pounds there, whatever, because they're so used to making changes like that. But it's a huge change in your lifestyle. It really is. That involves changing all of your eating habits to catch up to that. It's not easy. It really isn't. And to say that you're a hard gainer is usually extremely trivializing the amount of effort that actually has to be put into bulking. For those that don't know, if you looked at the plan that I copied this plan off of, the guy Alex who did this plan originally, he was doing most of a box of like mini wheats with like a half a gallon of milk for breakfast every morning. You know, like, we're talking, and then he was doing an entire package of spaghetti with a whole can of sauce every lunch. And then he was doing like Chipotle for dinner, and he was getting, you know, double, triple meat and like triple beans and triple rice and all this stuff. God knows how much that cost him every day. And yeah, and then he's going home and having a big shake to, you know. The point is, it looks absurd, the amount of food that people have to eat, but it only looks absurd if you've never done it yourself. Because if you've done it yourself, you'll realize it's not as easy as you might think. So yeah, when it comes to bulking, don't trivialize it. Don't say that you're a hard gainer unless you've really, really seriously tried it. If you say you're a hard gainer and you tell me that you haven't been in a position where you're eating all day, literally, you know, like it seems like it's the only thing that you ever think about, and you get sick half the time from eating too much, then yeah. So that's my rant. Anyway, guys, as always, like, comment, subscribe, share. Please stop saying hard gainer. And yeah, have a good night.